Imagine this. It is the year 1665, and you, a distinguished foreign ambassador, have been summoned to the opulent court of Europe's mightiest monarch. As you traverse the grand, echoing corridors of the royal palace in Madrid walls, adorned with tapestries of conquest and gilded frames, reflecting the flickering light of chandeliers, you anticipate an audience with a paragon of absolute authority, a sovereign whose presence commands the world. Yet, what awaits you in the throne room shatters every expectation, haunting your dreams for nights to come. The king's mouth gapes unnaturally, his jaw dangling like a rusted hinge on an ancient gate. Attempts at speech yield only incomprehensible murmurs and guttural echoes, as if words are drowning in his throat. His form is so grotesquely contorted that he resembles a spectre from the darkest realms of imagination rather than a ruler of empires. Whispers among his subjects brand him El Hechizado, the bewitched one. But the truth, veiled in shadows and unspoken dread, reveals a curse not of sorcery, but of lineage, a familial doom, far more insidious and irreversible. This is the chronicle of how one of Europe's most formidable dynasties unraveled from its very core, birthing a tragic figure upon the throne whose reign would ignite one of history's most devastating conflicts. Before we immerse ourselves in these veiled tales of endurance and anguish, if you find solace in unveiling the concealed verities of the past, I invite you to express your appreciation by engaging with this narrative, perhaps through a gesture of support or by joining our community of inquisitive minds. Share in the comments the distant lands from which you join us. It is a profound wonder that these age-old sagas bind us across continents and eras, united by an unquenchable thirst for the echoes of history. To grasp the profound tragedy embodied by Charles II, we must delve into the labyrinthine ethos of the Habsburg family, a dynasty whose grip on power spanned more than 2 centuries and enveloped half the globe. Their domains extended from the sun-drenched shores of Spain to the distant archipelago of the Philippines, from the alpine heights of Austria to the lowlands of the Netherlands, an empire where daylight perpetually reigned. Yet, this unparalleled dominion exacted a harrowing toll. The Habsburgs harbored an obsessive fixation on preserving the sanctity of their bloodline, a delusion that transcended mere alliances with nobility. In their distorted worldview, purity demanded unions confined strictly within the family circle. Uncles wedded to nieces, cousins bound to cousins, forging bonds that twisted kinship into a nightmarish tangle. Contemplate the abyss of this reality. Charles II possessed an inbreeding coefficient of 0.254, surpassing even that of offspring from sibling unions. This was no isolated aberration but the culmination of 11 successive generations of intermarriages among kin. Ordinarily, one's lineage boasts 16 distinct great-great-grandparents. Charles claimed a mere 6. His ancestral tree resembled not a sturdy oak but a snarled web, with forebears recurring in multiple roles like ghosts haunting the same shadowed halls. Anna of Austria served as his aunt, grandmother, and great-grandmother simultaneously. Philip II loomed as grandfather, great-grandfather, and great-great-grandfather. Contemporary genetic scholars affirm that Charles exhibited less genetic variation than a child of full siblings, the inexorable outcome of centuries-old matrimonial customs that methodically purged any infusion of vital, external heritage. The Habsburg sovereigns were acutely aware of their perilous path. Archives from the 16th century reveal counsel from advisors decrying the perils of such intimate unions, while Spanish healers chronicled escalating stillbirths, infant demise, and malformations among royal progeny. Nonetheless, the dynasty's retort was unyielding. Intensify the closeness of relations, eschew dilution. They observed the toll offspring emerging with ever more exaggerated distortions, the infamous Habsburg jaw protruding with alarming severity, delays in locomotion until late childhood, barrenness, and enigmatic fatalities. Rather than relent, they entrenched their doctrine, so gripped by paranoia over diluting authority with outsiders that they elected to sacrifice their heir's vitality on the altar of exclusivity. When Philip IV, Charles's father, beheld his son's profound afflictions, his impulse was not toward remedy but concealment. He decreed the obliteration of all infantile likenesses and imposed silence upon any discourse of the boy's state beyond palace confines, deeming the truth a stain upon their exalted facade. This veil of secrecy perpetuated a vicious spiral. each Habsburg heir more ravaged than the predecessor. Yet the family's compulsion for pristine imagery forbade acknowledgement, let alone reform. On the 6th of November, 1661, the birth of Charles II plunged the royal chambers into a stunned hush. No jubilant proclamations echoed, no peals of bells heralded the arrival of Spain's future. Instead, a ripple of terror coursed through the halls like a chilling draught. The infant's form evoked immediate dread. Many presumed him lifeless at first glance. His cranium swelled disproportionately atop a diminutive frame, eyes unnaturally distant, evoking an otherworldly gaze, and his mouth locked in that eternal, gaping void that would shadow his existence. Yet, the deepest horror lay in the enforced muteness. Midwives faced execution for whispers of the sight. Physicians coerced into affidavits attesting to his flawless health. The machinery of royal deception mobilized, shrouding the grim verity. Charles's formative years unfolded as a ceaseless ordeal. Mastery of his own head eluded him until 6, ambulation until 8, coherent utterance until 10, each benchmark a Herculean trial. Poignantly, glimpses suggest Charles sensed his divergence. Medical logs note interminable weeping sans evident cause, as though perpetual torment gnawed at his spirit. Slumber evaded him, his malformed jaw permitting his tongue to obstruct breath, inciting nocturnal gasps. Wet nurses recoiled, some invoking protective rites upon nearing his cradle, murmuring invocations against perceived malevolence. The palace annals depict a household steeped in perpetual apprehension, attendants casting lots for the duty of entering his quarters, sentinels recounting eerie nocturnal emanations, not mere sobs, but dissonant wails that chilled the soul. At 5, his inaugural portrait summoned artist Juan Carreño de Miranda, who anticipated a cherubic subject. Confronted instead with a visage that blurred the line between humanity and apparition, he balked, confiding to kin of ensuing visions that plagued his rest. The resultant artwork employed every ruse of shadow and angle to normalize the prince, yet failed to eclipse the intelligent spark trapped within those haunted eyes, a keen awareness of his alienation, an unvoiced plea for understanding amid universal fear. In a fervent bid to feign normalcy, the court orchestrated elaborate deceptions. Ceremonial encounters with envoys positioned Charles behind bespoke screens veiling his anomalies. Nourishment arrived pre-masticated, blended into slurries to avert the indignity of spillage and asphyxiation. Yet, innocence pierced the facade. At 7, an Italian diplomat's child, upon beholding Charles, erupted in shrieks of "Mostro! Mostro!" a breach that sparked international discord and demolished lingering pretenses. The Habsburg jaw, emblematic of their lineage, evolved into a cataclysm in Charles, a mandibular protrusion so extreme that closure left a chasm wide enough for currency. Retrospective diagnoses posit severe mandibular prognathism, macroglossia, and potential acromegaly, but contemporaries could only articulate divine retribution etched upon his countenance. Diplomatic missives brim with dismay. A Venetian chronicled his perpetual gasp, akin to a stranded sea creature. A French observer likened his voice to submerged pleas. Even Confederates struggled to mask aversion. Repasts transformed into macabre tableaux. Incapable of mastication, his misaligned dentition rendered solids futile upper teeth recessed behind the lower. Kitchens concocted purees and fluids, yet consumption remained a laborious, leaking affair, with attendants perpetually attending to rivulets of drool. Charles, cognizant of the spectacle, oft forsook public dining, courting starvation over shame, exacerbating his frailty. Worse still, articulation proved a Sisyphean labor, his words emerging as sodden slurs baffling even intimates. Envoys required translators not for tongues but comprehension. State affairs pivoted to script as oration faltered. This impasse birthed governance crises. How might a monarch command sans voice? Scribes labored to decipher his mutterings, frequently improvising intent. In lucid intervals, Charles's own epistles unveiled his torment. "I am captive within my own form," he scrawled unsteadily, "and Providence has enthroned me over the vastest realm as a divine mockery." Beyond the jaw, Charles's physique was a symphony of ruin, evoking medieval superstitions. At 35, he evoked a malformed youth elongated by torment, scarcely 5 feet, with disproportionate enormity of head upon a spindly neck, limbs skeletal, trunk compacted and stooped, his frame degenerated incessantly, defying maturation's stasis. Locomotion dawned at 8, a faltering gait reliant on props, spine warped into eternal curvature, burdening him with an unseen yoke, the accumulated sins of ancestry. Cognitively, he lingered in juvenility, literacy evading until 10, comprehension elusive. Tutors likened instruction to pouring into a fractured urn. Temperaments mirrored infancy, outbursts over trifles, succeeded by catatonic voids, hours lost in vacant stares. His tresses sprouted sporadically, shedding to reveal a mottled pate. Portraitists embellished liberally. Pallid dermis bore enigmatic eruptions. Perpetual chill demanded swathes of garb, distorting his silhouette further. An uncanny aura enveloped him, a subtle decay, perhaps metabolic fallout from inbreeding, as modern analyses propose. Charles's saga escalated to continental calamity. Europe's paramount throne occupied by an heirless sovereign, imperiling dynastic continuity and geopolitical equilibrium. Twice wedded, his unions sought progeny in vain. Marie-Louise of Orléans, vibrant French royal, anticipated regal companionship. Reality delivered a spectral bond. Their nuptial eve reportedly dissolved in mutual anguish, servants attesting to her tearful egress and his bewildered dismay. Genetic ravages rendered him reproductively inert. Organs arrested in childish underdevelopment. Denial prevailed. Culpability shifted to Marie-Louise, branding her infertile. She endured degrading probes, noxious elixirs, and relentless oversight, her spirit fracturing under the yoke of impossibility. Once effervescent, she retreated into melancholy prayer. Correspondence to kin bemoaned matrimony to a phantom, pity eclipsing affection. Her enigmatic demise at 26, officially appendicitis, rumored self-inflicted, closed a chapter of quiet desperation. With empiricism exhausted, the court invoked the ethereal, staging arcane rites upon their monarch. Ecclesiastical verdicts deemed him demoniacally afflicted. Father Antonio Fernandez de Landas proclaimed possession by infernal entities ensorcelled against the crown. These exorcisms unfolded not in seclusion but as grandiose spectacles in the throne hall. Nobility and envoys compelled to witness Charles writhing amid fervent Latin invocations. Sessions commenced with ingestion of sanctified water laced with relic dust, inducing violent retchings interpreted as demonic rebellion. Convulsions, faints, and cries ensued as clerics wrestled spectral foes from his frame, branding crucifixes upon flesh, dousing in hallowed fluids, compelling fragmented recitations. Diplomats chronicled the horror, surpassing battlefield atrocities. Escalation engulfed the palace. In 1698, Father Diaz mandated a sweeping purge, amassing suspect artifacts, regal heirlooms, diplomatic tributes, furnishings for immolation in courtyard pyres, chants rising amid choking fumes visible city-wide, inciting public alarm. Charles, his faculties pliable, embraced the illusion of respite, craving rituals amid flares of agony, convinced of spiritual siege. Over 50 sessions in his twilight years depleted him further, yet terror propelled his pleas. The Habsburg quest for unalloyed dominion via consanguinity annihilated their legacy. Empire fractured, lineage extinguished, their terminal sovereign a parable of hubris against nature. Charles perished in isolation on the 1st of November 1700, betrayed by a vessel forged in generational folly. Post-mortem unveiled visceral horrors, organs malformed beyond recognition, a testament to ancestral folly. Yet, Charles's narrative transcends familial folly. It mirrors humanity's perennial folly, favoring ephemeral dominance over enduring vitality, control over equilibrium, illusion over inexorable biology. The Habsburgs aspired to eternal consolidation through isolation, deeming their essence supreme. Catastrophe ensued, inscribed in Charles's warped frame nature's rebuke to engineered supremacy. In irony's cruel twist, the purest Habsburg proved the most impotent, voiceless, famished, barren, scarcely master of self, much less realms. Centuries of orchestrated unions yielded antithesis, a biological void negating dynastic ethos. Gazing upon his effigies today, we confront not mere antiquity but incarnate presumption, the corporeal toll of power's precedence over providence, a sentinel against defying life's immutable edicts. The The grandest European realm succumbed because its stewards overlooked their mortal essence, bound by universal ordinances. Charles II's shattered form was evolution's unyielding decree upon epochs of genetic artifice. In the end, nature prevailed, etched eternally in the contorted legacy of Spain's final Habsburg king.